the shadow government. I will fear no Satans. Tuesday, November 14, 2023, our guests are Christi Tasker. Christi Tasker is an award-winning technologist, international business consultant, designer, manufacturer, artisan. She designs and sells fashion jewelry, home decor, and fabrics. Christi is also an investigative journalist based in Miami who travels globally to discover truth. She's an investigative journalist for the Awake Nation. You can find her at ChristiTasker.com, PSSRocks.com, PatriotPerspective.com, and ChristiTasker4Miami.com. Our next guest is Gary Wayne, author of the Genesis 6 Conspiracy, How Secret Societies and the Descendants of Giants Plan to Enslave Mankind. It details the role of modern-day Nephilim in Satan's plan to install the Antichrist at the end of days. Our next guest is Brent Thomas, Paranormal Portal. Brent is the host of Paranormal Portal on TFR Live, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and you can find him just about everywhere. And closing out the final hour of the Awake Nation is Gunnar Allen Lindbloom. He is the author of To Be a King. His mother was a Toko of the Detroit Toko crime family. In Gunnar's late teens and early 20s, he was known as an associate or street enforcer for the family. He completed a 13-year stint behind bars and is now a writer and a speaker. Don't forget to subscribe to the Dark Outpost at darkoutpost.tv. There you will find exclusive content, interviews, documentaries, and intel not found anywhere else. For the full show, go to awakenation.tv. Falling down the rabbit hole can hurt. Ouch. Ow, that's gonna hurt. We will provide the researchers and the whistleblowers. Your mission is to discern the truth from the MSN lies. And now for the interview portion of the Awake Nation. And awake we go with a shot of espresso. It's showtime!
All right, and joining us now on the Awake Nation, as she does on a regular basis, Christi Tasker. Her website is ChristiTasker.com and PatriotsPerspective.com and a few others. She was a former contender for the Miami City Council or City Commission seat. And the last time we talked, Christi, we had you getting ready to face a runoff. And then, night of election, Penny sent me this, and it looked like Damian Pardo is going to be going with Sabina Kovo. So I want to know.
Yeah. So, yeah, David. So obviously we know there's a lot of issues within our entire election process.
Yes.
On election day, I figured out why we have massive amounts of days for early voting, why we have so many days for mail-in voting, because all of our machines are online during the entire process and being tabulated in real time. So someone is able to review these numbers in real time. It's not you and I. We don't know. We don't know in real time. We're not able to go out and get more votes. We're not able to go knock more doors. We don't know if on day one, maybe we had 200 votes on day one, and did those get flipped by day 4? Who really knows? But guess what? Yours truly is going to find out. I've informed the Department of Elections that I will be there to personally review all 7,000 votes and review all of my 275 votes. Because, David, just imagine the last election time, right? I ran all by myself, no volunteers whatsoever, and got almost 200 votes. So you're telling me that I only got 75 more votes with about 75 more volunteers? This is like a joke.
Yeah, something is really wrong. Now, I remember when we were going through this process, the names that you tossed out there, Sabina Koval, we were quite familiar with it. who's Damian Pardo? I know you talked a little bit about him, but how did this guy come from, it seems out of nowhere, to become in second place and force this runoff?
Well, that's a great question, David. Well, Damian Pardo did not run in the February election. Nobody had really heard of Damian Pardo. And suddenly Damian Pardo appeared during the Billy Corbin. Do you guys remember when Billy Corbin actually was at the press conference and I said, I'm going to have Billy on really quick?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Damian appeared. Yeah, he made his appearance then. So I actually spoke to Damian last night because, I wanted to clarify a few things. And because I have written an article about Damian, in terms of what's true, what's not, he really wanted to have a conversation with me, which I very much appreciated. And so, I did appreciate Damian calling me, and I appreciate anybody who wants to have a conversation to clear things up, because obviously he knows that when I expose someone, that number one, it's not going to stop. So at least he's smart enough to realize that. So I'd written this article on Damian Pardo. And so, David, I've got it up on the screen for our viewers. So on October the 31st, I released this article because a lot of the information Damian was given during our what's called the candidate forums was incorrect. And so I confronted Damian to his face and said, you were not the only person at this press briefing. Matter of fact, I went live with my audience, my podcast audience. Billy was even on my podcast that day. I said, so you really need to quit this deception, this public deception, because otherwise, you're making yourself look really silly. Well, I thought that he would stop. And I thought that he would, make it out. I thought he would at least clarify, but it seemed like Damian was really reading from his notes, just as he was during the press briefing. So one of the biggest things that I realized was that Damian Pardo, the kids that I interviewed, so on my YouTube channel, you will see a little girl that I interviewed. She wrote a song for me. I interviewed her for about 18 minutes. She seemed to know all the talking points, but she is the daughter of not Damian Pardo's campaign manager, but a campaign consultant. So this little girl knew all of our talking points and everything, but Damian clarified that she did not that her father did not give him the talking points. However, I asked Damian who wrote the talking points that he's utilizing. I said, because, you really need to just come clean with this, because it's obvious you just kind of came out of nowhere. He says that he's actually really concerned about our city. But the reality is, still after, having a conversation with Damian, he is definitely everywhere that Billy Corbin is in relationship to the Joe Carollo lawsuit. Okay. So what do I mean by that? Number one, Damian actually started the organization he didn't start. Let me go back to exactly what he says. Okay. So just to clarify, because he did spend an hour on the phone with me last night trying to clarify a lot of the issues that we're talking about here. So I want to be fair and respectful in terms of his time. So he basically started Save PAC, which is the organization. It's a gay action PAC that was folding. And so Save was founded, an organization was founded as a 501c4. So they basically took on the gay action PAC. But Save is supposed to be for everyone, Save America, not just gay guys or
right.
gay girls. So Damian said he was afraid to take over the PAC back in the day. He actually was against it because he was concerned that it was going to become very political instead of the organization that it has somewhat become. So they did endorse Sabina Kovo. Okay, so here's the endorsement. Both times is Save Action PAC endorsed Sabina Kovo. And the problem that I have with Sabina Kovo and the entire commission is that they have erected the LGBTQ plus flag on the building. So I talked to Damian last night and I said, this really should not be allowed. I said, because Today, it's your label. Tomorrow, it's someone else's. So no matter what any of us want or think, like Sabina Kovo is really good friends with Nikki Fried. They believe in abortion. Matter of fact, I think they wear shirts around that say like, I murder babies, and like they love it. They think it's great.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to see a flag up that says I murder babies. I don't want to see any flags up, to be truthful, David. So, I have a really big problem with that. I went through this with Damian last night and asked him to reconsider his stance on this, because I told him that I thought he would actually have a chance if he would come out, and not so much for gay people and for all people. So that's his choice. I don't know if he's going to make a statement or anything like that. But what the alliance that he does have that I noticed was that Damian and his campaign managers have an endless budget for the city taxpayers, and they refuse to state that the city is not on the hook for the Joe Carollo $63.5 million lawsuit. However, Bill Fuller and the entire group, that's the people who sued Joe Carollo, they did come out and personally sue each individual that was responsible for hurting their business. So I did notice that they did that, which is a good thing. So the other thing that Damian did is he called me and asked me if I would file sunshine law violations because he was not in attendance of city meetings where Sabina, Christine King, that's the chairwoman, and Joe Carollo were actually speaking before the meeting, which is not allowed because they were 3 of the 4 votes that were voting on whether to do something or not. The other problem that I have with Damian is, he doesn't seem to pay attention with some things. And so I addressed this with him, like, for instance, he can't spell people's name correctly. Okay. I pay attention to everything. Okay. So if you can't spell my name correctly and it's on signs everywhere and I'm sitting next to you, it's like, okay, what else are you not paying attention to? So I addressed all of these things with him. Along with the fact that he doesn't really live in Coconut Grove, but he was leading Coconut Grove residents to believe that he actually lives there. And the biggest thing was him lying about being the only person at this press briefing where I actually spoke and I said this.
That have unjustly done our community wrong. When I first moved to Miami, I was told that I needed to pay $1,500 for a building permit. Otherwise, my permit will not get passed.
Okay. So basically, there was a lot of different correlation, that I explained to Damian that, he claims this was him. So it's like, this is the first time I remember seeing Damian. Okay. So I'm going to play this clip just so you guys can see.
Fellow community leaders, businesses, and residents in calling for the resignation of Commissioner Joe Carollo.
Okay. So let me explain who some of these people are. So this is one of the people that actually sued Joe Carollo. These are supporters to this day of Damian. And these people are on boards for the city. Okay.
All right.
As a Miami native and a lifelong activist, I'm here to tell you we can do better in the city of Miami.
Okay. His campaign motto is "We can do better." So to me, this was the start of his campaign launch.
We are currently spending millions of dollars defending his illegal actions, and now we're exposed to over a $60 million verdict. Instead of using community resources for petty vendettas and ego-driven initiatives, the city of Miami deserves representation that cares about its people and the problems they struggle with on a daily basis. Problems like flooding, most of us experienced that this morning, affordable housing, overdevelopment, parks, green spaces, just to name a few. Today is a day for good people who are afraid to speak up, to speak up. And it's a day for city government to get back to basics and to serving its residents. And let's be clear, what we're saying here in no uncertain terms is that we want Joe Carollo to resign or to be removed from public office.
Okay, so I'm gonna share with you how we get people removed from office. Okay, because Damian, while he went to the Billy Corbin produced press conference, he failed to go to the city meeting where that is where we should be going to address our grievances with our government. And why was I the only person there to address these grievances with the government, directly with the people who are disenfranchising us as a whole? So let's just go and look and see exactly what we're supposed to do, David, because I think a lot of people can learn from this. We can go to as many press conferences as we want to, but if we do not show up at our city meetings and get these things on public record, then the cycle continues. So let's watch this. Okay, so this is where I have gone to the city meeting where this is a topic of discussion. And in about a 2-minute period, I requested 7 things.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Christi Tasker. I live at 150 Southeast 25th Road. I am also a candidate for District 2 Commission against Ms. Kovo. I would respectfully ask that you guys please consider reversing the Morningside Park. 7 years is entirely too long to continue the same continuances that you have. A 9-year period is far too long. When it comes to sound and noise, we need to be very mindful of that because it can happen in your neighborhoods as well. And when it comes to noise in general, we need to be very respectful. Same with downtown, whenever we're doing anything there. Setbacks and waivers, we don't get that property back. You guys need to really think about that. And whenever you have the opportunity to reclaim and get more walking space back, it is absolutely critical. We have broken sidewalks, we have broken things throughout the city, and people have elected all of you at this very moment in time to do the right thing and to regain your public's trust. In saying Mr. Crow, I ask that you parks for Bayfront Park. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So basically, I went and asked for Joe Carollo's removal to his face. We don't address our grievances with the media. We address our grievances with the government. And the only way we're going to get anything is actually to go to the government. So, let's put it this way. When it comes to this runoff election as a whole, if Miami actually chose these 2 candidates, if that's what the ballots reflect when I go review the ballots, I will gladly let everybody know. But at this point in time, I feel really sorry for Miami as a whole because we don't really have a good choice here. We have somebody who's never shown up. We have somebody who could. Damian is supposedly a financial advisor. I asked him, had he reviewed any of the budgets? Had he gone over any of the documents? And he said, no, that wasn't his expertise. This isn't his expertise. Well, Sabina Kovo is much in the same. So the only thing that we could do is we already know what we're going to get in Sabina Kovo, which is basically nothing. So then there's Damian Pardo, who could be something. At least he will call you back right now before he's elected. But that's not saying he's going to call you back after he's elected. So it really depends on, it seems like everybody's on the take, David. And in terms of the entire process, the amount of votes seems to be weighted. A lot of people weight their votes on who has the most money, which is the absolute opposite that people should be doing. They should not be waiting on who has the most money. They should actually be weighting their votes on who has the least amount of money and the least amount of support by other elected officials.
Right.
I say this because we can all learn from this, like from your own elections, from your own local elections. So what can you do locally? You can, number one, help the candidate with the least amount of money. If they are competent, okay, listen, you're going to need to interview people. Not everybody's competent. Not everybody is Christi Tasker. But here's the deal. For my 275 people that voted for me, I am still going to speak up, show up, and stand up. for what is right and stand up to this corruption, no matter what it is. Damian claims he will allow me in the office and he will make sure that I get the documents that I need to do any kind of investigative journalism that I need to do, or to help him find the corruption. That's now. So I'm holding him accountable for that, in terms of I would like to get him on record stating these things. Because like I said, he at least did take the time to call me. Sabina Kovo has not responded to so much as a tweet. So I will say that regarding the two candidates. So yeah, that's where we are at this very moment. So basically I'm waiting on an election inspection time at this very moment to go inspect the ballots. What we do know is we actually, whenever people went to sign, there was a signature pad. And on the signature pad, it says, "I agree to the oath." Okay, I didn't get an oath, but it says I agree to the oath. I asked the poll manager, like, what oath? Are you supposed to be giving us an oath? And he goes, I was wondering the same thing. He said that the signature panel had changed on them that morning, the morning before the election. So he walked me through the entire election process, explaining to me that as soon as the ballot is fed in and read, the tabulators do send the message of exactly where the election process is over the internet at that very point in time. So whenever you have 9-10 days of early voting, mail-in ballots, you are constantly going to get stolen elections. We must all agree to show up to vote. One vote, one day. Otherwise, your votes are constantly going to be stolen. Our unions are going to be out claiming to take seniors to the voting centers or the polling stations, when in actuality, many times they're there just to pick up the ballots from the senior centers that are often filled out by the people that work at the senior centers. And let me just tell you, I've got some polling station footage. I don't want these people in charge of my government. Okay. So at the polling stations, when you've got people there that are not holding people accountable from the very get-go and who are not abiding by Florida statutes, you are going to continue to get absolute people who are never going to abide by these statutes at all.
So other than making sure that you monitor the ballot count, make sure everything was accurate, what is Christi Tasker's next move? What are you going to do now? Where are you putting your energies?
Well, that's a great question, David. Well, you got to keep in mind, I own several businesses. So running for being a candidate was not my, it was not my job per se. So a lot of people have asked
your bio is so long. I'm going to have to read you your little intro piece, because it doesn't do you justice. You do so many different things. Can we talk a little bit about the manufacturing and the clothing design that you do?
Sure. Yes, that would be great, Penny, because that is the season that I'm in right now. So I have a new collection due, and the new collection is actually due in January, so that I can get samples before Chinese New Year. Because yes, I do produce in China, because we don't really have U.S. manufacturers here. We've run them all off. And not only that, but we can't even afford to produce here right now, even though we should be able to, but we have to bring some manufacturing back to America. So yes, I hold a 20-year Chinese visa. I was the one who actually went to Asia when I heard that there was going to be a pandemic breakout. Okay. So yes, I went to Asia. I confirmed 100% that what we were being told was not true. I was also receiving photographs from my manufacturing facilities asking me months in October. I started to receive, did I want to produce masks? Well, how did they know that we were going to need so many masks?
Yeah.
If we're in a pandemic and a scamdemic, Dr. Fraudchi. So that's when I went into full gear and realizing that, I have to be more than just a business owner. If I want to stay free, I have to be more than a business owner. I have to be more than a manufacturer. I cannot just stick my head under the rug and hope that this passes over, because otherwise without people like me who are filming, who are on the job filming, Penny, because you know what that's like when you're going through the process. That's the best way to find the truth, because you really are doing other things. I'm very knowledgeable, so very few people are going to get by with things on me in terms of where we are, in our country. And when it came to running for city commission, I just wanted to get our city services back in order. That's it. That's what our commission is supposed to do. Get our city services back in order, hold people responsible, give you documents, be a good communicator. And so that's what I'm going back to do. So I have Tasker Agency. I have ChristiTasker.com. So ChristiTasker.com is my focus until at least January. I'll have all the collections and everything done, and then somebody else can step in and continue on with the sales, marketing, and everything. So
Are you also going to start a news program?
Yes, I am, Penny. I don't want to say that what the name of that is yet, because I do have the .com on it.
You need to capture it.
It's going to be very interesting. We'll show that maybe next week.
Will it be a podcast, or will it be a journalistic endeavor, or both?
It's actually going to be both. It's going to be absolute news of the Banana Republic and anything that is crazy. So it's going to be, since you said it, Penny, it's going to be bananarepublicnews.com.
Yeah, I would love to help you out with that, and then also you might consider maybe doing a segment for our Dark Outpost.
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. That would be wonderful. Yeah.
And of course, you can't get out of your commitment to your Monday or Tuesday service.
That's just in addition to the other thousands of things that you have going.
Yes. We'll have to do regular awake news then. And then we'll hold the Banana Republic style news. So in other words, the majority of Miami news will have to be held for the Banana Republic news.
Right. Because the Miami news is pretty dark.
The Miami news is actually worse than dark. I've said to people, our borders aren't protected. Nothing we have here is protected. And they have everyone distracted on other parts of the world, when the actuality is they should be looking right here, because we have so many fraudulent politicians that have been, I believe, illegally elected to begin with through the entire election process, and nobody's holding those people accountable. So I could be the first person to actually hold our elected officials accountable before they are elected, but just based on processes. And so people have asked me, am I going to run again? I don't see myself running, but it really depends on, what really happens on that. So I will never make being a politician, in other words, like vying for a position, because I have so many positions. So many people were coming to me like, what is going to happen if you don't win? And I'm like, what? I'm going to go back to work. I mean, the very next day after the election, everybody was texting me, and I was literally with Trump's team. And then the next day I was with Vivek's team. And so here we are. So I'm not stopping.
I personally think you should run for mayor, Miss Tasker.
Listen, Penny, that's what somebody else said too. So that would be pretty funny, right?
No, it would be good for the city. What are you talking? That's not even a laughing matter. We'd start supporting you right from the beginning.
Yes. Well, what about we would be able to actually reverse the C40 plan that people don't even see coming against them? They don't even know what it is. People have no idea that the mayor signed us up for a C40 plan. They have no idea. They think it's just all about climate change. They have not read through the details of the fake, fraudulent climate change plan called C40, initiated by the World Economic Forum, backed by all the vaccine manufacturers. Why do we need vaccine manufacturers associated with the climate?
I don't know. I think we need more clothing manufacturers to, for that 3 pieces of articles a year that you're allowed to wear.
Right. The 3 pieces per year. And not only that, Penny, but when it comes to manufacturing that you were asking about, the one initiative that I also have is actually a Great Awakening collection coming out. That's going to be coming out on Patriots Perspective shop. So it's going to be truth gear, because the truth is what matters. That will set us free. And so the truth gear is going to be shirts that have messages to help you awaken your neighbors. So if you want
Excellent.
information, if people want information on that, they need to go to patriotsperspective.com, sign up for the newsletter. And you even get notices. Like I send out, we're going to be sending out notices on every single show that I'm on, Penny. So that way my audience can also know to like come and watch, our episodes here. And then this show continues to air. I go ahead and air it on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube as well.
Very good. Well, Christi, we look forward to talking again next week. And as always, we support you from the bottom of our hearts. Okay. So just know
Thank you so much, David. Thank you. I appreciate y'all's support. Thank you, audience.
All right. Talk to you next
God
week. Bye-bye. Christi Tasker here on the Awake Nation. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the last time we had Gary Wayne on, we talked about the history of Halloween. But before that, we had talked about an upcoming show in which we were going to talk about Adolf Hitler as perhaps one of the many antichrists. I think today we're going to get to that. At least I'm hoping that we will. The next hour of the Awake Nation, of course, is brought to you by our good friends over at New Me.
Remember when this was the best delivery method for music? Remember when this was the best delivery method for supplements? Every industry evolves and improves with new breakthroughs in science and technology. Here at NUME, we've used a proprietary technology to solve an issue that's been around since nutritional supplementation began, the problem of absorption. So many of today's supplements are less effective due to their inability to be absorbed naturally by the body. Using our own proprietary Hydrostat nano delivery breakthrough, we reduce the particle size of critical nutrients smaller than ever before, allowing them to absorb in your mouth while swishing for 30 seconds or more. Glutathione is your body's master antioxidant. It's responsible for boosting your energy, detoxifying cells, reducing inflammation, and boosting the immune system. If glutathione is so amazing, why have you never heard of it? Because glutathione is extremely fragile, and if taken orally, it will be destroyed via the digestive process, rendering it virtually useless to the body. Until now, NutraSwish applies nanotechnology to achieve maximum absorption. Now, glutathione and other nutrients can be absorbed simply and quickly by swishing in the mouth instead of being destroyed in the stomach. Using this same nanotechnology, we've created the ultimate skincare product, NUME Skin. We've been able to achieve unparalleled absorption for key ingredients, including collagen, hyaluronic acid, and more. Some of the top skin experts in the world work together to create the ultimate blend of skin-enhancing nanonutrients, creating the most amazing before and after results. With our nano solution, you no longer have to wait months to experience the effects of skincare and supplementation. Our customers are noticing a difference within a matter of days. Don't wait to look, feel, and live your best life. A new you starts with NUME.
All right, just head on over to our website, awakenation.tv or theawakenation.com, and order yourself some NutraSwish. It's fantastic. I mean, really, it's just, it does so much. The FDA doesn't even let you tell us half of what it does, but it's really that good. All right. By the way, Penny's not with us. She was taking a little break there. So we won't waste any time. We'll go ahead and bring in our next guest, Gary Wayne, author of The Genesis 6 Conspiracy, and soon The Genesis 6 Conspiracy 2. Probably by next March?
Yeah, it's up for pre-ordering right now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and other online bookstores, as well as through my website, thegenesis6conspiracy.com. And for anybody who wants to have a quick peek at it, I've got a generous excerpt of all 84 chapters for part 2 up on the website as well.
Outstanding. Well, we can't wait, because the first book is just outstanding. If you haven't gotten that one, you know what you can do is, if you want to give a really great Christmas gift, I've got an idea. Buy the first book, okay, and give it as a Christmas gift. And inside the front cover of the book, insert the fact that when the second book comes out, they're getting that one too.
Awesome.
Right? We think it's a good idea, right? They know they're going to get both books, and they don't have to wait for the second one.
Yeah.
They can get the first one as a gift. That's what I think, Sam. Well, today, I'd like to talk about this thing that we teased a few weeks ago. And that's, we talked about the fact that your research has indicated that there may be several people that are quote unquote antichrists, which eventually one person will emerge as the antichrist. But there are several who may have contributed to that. One of which might have been Adolf Hitler, and you were going to talk about that. And I'm hoping we can do that today.
Absolutely. And when we talk about Hitler in an antichrist type analogy, understand that that comes out of the occult belief system. So Nostradamus, which is a fairly famous occult prognosticator or prophet, as they would have them, an alchemist and Rosicrucian, he prophesied in his very, let's say, obscure prophecies, but as you sort through that, 3 different antichrist type figures that would come. The first one, that was Napoleon. And the second one that he described as Hisler, which is thought to be an ancient name for the Danube River from which Hitler was born on, as the second Antichrist figure. And then in the end time, there would be another Antichrist figure. So sort of ultimately getting worse as they go. So from the globalist belief system, from which the secret societies and the occult religions dominate that movement, they're trying to position themselves for not only a globalist government, a universal religion, but for the ultimate dragon messiah. So Hitler, from that aspect, has very important lessons for us to learn in terms of what that end time might look like. When you look at what happened in Nazi Germany, they received seemingly inexplicable knowledge that advanced their military and scientific area, so that they were able to develop weaponry like the Panzer and the Tiger tanks, like the jet engine, the single winged airplane, jet aircraft, rockets, the spell-shaped things that is thought in some circles to be like a time machine. You have this combining of secret societies and the occult religions that are going to form the basis to bring about National Socialism. You have the new man ideology or pan-Aryan giant philosophy and the return of the giants and trying to create the new man. You have the real ideology of something in the blood that comes through the Rosicrucians. You have this throne of Satan that they're bringing in, which is the altar of Zeus that is brought back to Germany. It's a creation of Ariosophy or the Reichschurch in 1933. It's an illegal government that usurps democracy. It has a genocide of the Jewish people, and it has a promise of a millennium. So there is an analogy of, let's just say, the end time light with the Nazi regime. And that's just sort of the superficial layered topics that we can get into in terms of what Nazi Germany was all about. And you have an Antichrist figure in with the Fuhrer.
I think it's a very good possibility, because some of the things he did, I mean, one of the things that the Antichrist has to be is charismatic, which he was. He brought a lot of people under his spell, if you will.
Terrific orator,
yeah. So and it's almost as if some people didn't see through what he was trying to do and were mesmerized by this guy.
He was, and he was he said hubris things. Like he didn't say, your typical rhetoric. I mean, his plans were out there and open, that he wanted to start a new millennium, the Reich, the Third Reich, 1,000-year reign. It's very much akin to what we might expect from Antichrist, who's going to say things that are unimaginable and try and do things that are unimaginable. So again, a larger sort of step up from what Antichrist, or from what Hitler was saying as an Antichrist type figure. And Jesus told us that there would be multiple Antichrists.
Right.
and also in the end time, multiple antichrists. So we're going to see a few different versions of this, but learning the lessons from World War II is, I think, very, very important. And most people don't realize that it has such an occult beginning. In fact, Ari Neves, which was a major prosecutor for the Nuremberg trials, he said that and Winston Churchill and Truman were involved on this, is that they said that they did not permit all of this occult knowledge to be presented as evidence into the trials because they didn't want to open the door for the high-level Nazis to plead insanity.
Yeah.
And those records were kept classified. If people want to get a hold of me, I have a PDF I'll send them that has the links where you can go and get the declassified documents that started to come out in the 90s from the Congress, just so that people can sort of get an idea of what we were talking about that they wouldn't let into the trials.
Why do you think, and of course we're getting a little bit off the main path here, but just out of curiosity, one of the things that any charismatic figure, whether it be Jesus Christ, who we accept as the Son of God, and has followers, his 12 immediate apostles and his myriad disciples who followed and continued to preach his message, knowing that Hitler had to this day followers of his. I mean, we have the neo-Nazi movement now. We still have Nazis, whether they be in Ukraine or here in the United States or whatever. There's still a Nazi movement alive and well today. Why do you think, in your opinion, or based on your research, if you can, why did we bring some of these high-level Nazis here to the United States after World War II? Why didn't we try them, convict them, and execute them or send them to prison? Why did we bring them here to basically, in a way, help us continue his movement in many cases with these horrific scientific experiments, which became MK Ultra and some of the other things that we are aware of?
Yeah, I think that the Allies in the U.S. in particular realized that the technology that was developed by the Germans with the help of their secret masters, as they would describe them, was so advanced that it tipped the whole balance of power. And if you weren't in control of that, you might be wiped from the face of the earth. And so this technology was something that you had to have, because if the Russians got it, and they did get some of it, it would just change the complete dynamic. And so I think they thought it was worth the price of that ideology to bring it over. But I guess the more layered aspect of it, it's the West that sponsored National Socialism. It funded it with the banking. It was created to offset the communists that got out of control, that was funded by the West as well, to bring down the Romanov dynasty. And so National Socialism was created to offset communism, but then that went rogue. And then they had to, sort of bring that down. So it's not like the globalists, as we know them today, are any different than the National Socialists. It's just on a globalist scale. So they didn't disagree with that. What they disagreed with is that Hitler turned the guns or the weapons and the technology on the people who funded them. And that had to be stopped. So the Western bloodlines had to stop that.
So let's do this then. In all of your and by the way, folks, if you don't have the book, you really need to get this book, The Genesis 6 Conspiracy. The entire purpose of putting this book together, basically, is to show what is coming. It's kind of a very prophetic book, because it shows things that are never discussed when we go to church, for example. None of this stuff is ever presented. It's the same Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John every time you go to a Christian church. They don't talk about the Old Testament. They don't talk about the giants, the Nephilim. the any of this stuff. But to me, it seems to me the entire purpose of everything was to help to bring about the Antichrist, and what we're going to see is this final battle. So, is the final battle going to require that the world become a globalist state, that it become that there is some sort of a false god that is going to be created for us to worship other than the real God? And will it require socialism? And will it require destruction from within? And is that what the Antichrist is going to preach and take advantage of?
Yeah, I think certainly a lot of that. So when we look at the alliance that comes into the globalist movement, it's National Socialism on a globalist scale. National Socialism is a left-wing belief system. National Socialism is the Eastern branch of Western progressivism. And progressivism went sort of underground after World War II for obvious reasons, because they're running for cover because they were basically Western National Socialists. Now, they don't like to be associated with National Socialism. They like to call it right wing, but socialism is socialism. And National Socialism was a partnership of corporations, the government, and a polytheist religion. And that's the organizational structure coming for the end time. So you're going to have, as you see, China that moves towards that type of system, Russia's in that type of system, and the multinational corporations, we've seen them come out and work for that progressive agenda. We see that formation beginning. So when we look at the globalist agenda that's coming, look for a socialistic type of system that is controlled by the bloodlines and the corporations, who are basically the bloodlines and all of their organizations. So it's designed to wipe the middle class out that has risen in the last few hundred years in the West. It's designed to bring equity to the world, and their equity that they can bring cannot raise up the standard of living around the world, because the rich won't be parted with enough of their wealth to do that.
The equity is to create two classes, the haves and the have-nots, period, with most of us being the have-nots.
Yeah, so you have to lower the middle class to bring that equity. And of course, it'll be the elite that gets all the good food, all the great vacations, the ability to travel. It's just, and if you look at any of those communist socialist regimes, they have a very small elite that rules things and lives very well compared to the other class. And there's a statement that was said a number of years ago that China was the most equal country in the world ever created, but it was also one of the poorest. And that's the model that they would foresee coming. And so, yes, it's going to be that hierarchy of old, where you have a very small controlling class that controls the government, that controls all of the large business. And then you're going to have also control of the religious class up in that level. So you have top two classes there of the sort of immediate high-end wealthy and bloodlines. And then you have the extended family below that. And then you have a very small middle class or entrepreneurial class, like they had blacksmiths and bakers. So just sort of services. And then you have the slave and poor class that did, all the manual labor and things like that. That's what they're trying to bring back. And so this will be a system that is going to require a religion very much like what was formed in Nazi Germany. And it's going to be a mystical religion, as it's talked about in Revelation 17. So if you look at the dynamics that's forming Nazi Germany, not only do you have Illuminati, Freemasons, Rosicrucians as a big mix of the secret societies that would form the Armadan Orden, would form the New Temple Order, that then formed with Ariosophy to create the Germanan Orden, and then along comes the Thule Society. These are all secret societies of this Gnostic religion that produced a religion called Theosophy, that was designed to be the religion of the end time that would bridge science and religion together, just as science is answerable to the polytheist religions established in the West, and that you have this religion that is now going to go rogue to a certain degree, and they're going to call it Ariosophy. So it's a pan-Aryan Volkish ideology layered onto theosophy that they called Ariosophy. And then after listening to Wagner, who his writings and plays, like Percival, glorified Grail and Volkish ideology. And after listening to that, in 1933, Hitler comes out and announces the Reich Church, which is this pan-Aryan ideology that wants to create the new man and the superior race and the Third Reich.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that there is and I've never been able to figure out what this is, so maybe you can explain it further. There, 5 minutes from where I live, there is a building, and it houses a group that calls themselves the Theosophical Society.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's a religion. They call themselves the true religion. So it's Gnosticism. It's an extension of Gnosticism, and Theosophy is the parent for the New Age religion that came about with the introduction of the aliens after Roswell and other incidences.
Okay.
So, yeah, so it's the same religion that originally sponsored the Ariosophy that went rogue to a certain degree, but still the same religion that brought about the Nazi religion and ideology. That, you know, they believe that their ideology in the Vril and Rosicrucian ideology, and understand that Gnosticism and Theosophy is the religion of the secret societies. But in the Nazi belief system, they believe that they descended from the Aryans, which were the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, pale-skinned giants, and they were trying to backwards engineer that bloodline to create the new Superman. And in the meantime, they were going to do genetics going forward to try and create that superior race until they had enough technology. And they were confident they were going to get that technology because within those secret societies and in that occult religion, the adept levels, they talk with the celestial mafia. They talk with spiritual guides. They talk with the Great White Brotherhood. There's 1,000 different names whom they said they received the technology from to create all of that weaponry we were talking about earlier.
Now, for any figure to be, I guess, considered one of the antichrists, in addition to charisma and the ability to mesmerize people into following them. I mean, you take a look at Jim Jones, for example.
Yeah.
But what other qualifications does an antichrist figure have to possess?
Yeah, so an antichrist figure would be like an Alexander the Great.
Okay.
And Hitler to a lesser degree, but they have the ability for a short period of time to bend the world to their way. They're able to do things that are unimaginable. So when you have like this new technology, this new battle militia and strategy that overwhelms the Allies, they've not seen that before. And then the Germans are able to assert their control. Napoleon had the same type of battle tactics. Revolutionary, unheard of, thought to be insane, but for a while, none of his enemies had a solution to deal with that. Alexander changed his military strategy to take on the Persian Empire, and in formations and weaponry and the quickness of it, again, very, very similar to what Hitler and the Blitzkrieg of Hitler, and the speed and the fashion that Napoleon would march and outflank his opponents and all sorts of other tactics that he did. They had that ability to do what hasn't been seen before. And that sets them aside as something that is more dangerous and capable of becoming an antichrist figure. Now, we know that can only be one antichrist figure. So, and there's an ordained time for the antichrist, even though there's multiple antichrists. And there's one, some people believe it's the Holy Spirit. I think it's probably more Michael, but I'm fine with the other. That would be the restrainer that holds back the Antichrist. Michael does not restrain the beast empires from coming or from Hitler from coming. In fact, the seventh empire is going to come. Michael in the book of Daniel says he fights against Greece, he fights against Persia, but he doesn't stop them from coming to power. He prevents Antichrist from coming to power and completing the things that are prophesied for Antichrist. So we're going to see the seventh empire. And that's going to be those 10 kings and those empires and this universal religion that rides that beast of empires to form the world government, to form the universal religion that will make the way for Antichrist when Michael sits down. And then when he stands up again is at the midpoint of the last 7 years after he has introduced the mark of the beast, after he has taken power, after he starts to do his hubris speeches and things like that.
Does the Antichrist have to be able to perform some sort of miracles?
Yes, he will.
Okay.
And so will his false prophet, the false Elijah. In fact, he receives power from Satan, as 2 Thessalonians 2, 1-6 talks about, and all forms of power. And Antichrist will not only perform his own miracles, but
I mean, these
so will
people
false
that are
prophet
leading,
do things for Antichrist.
right? But these people leading up to the Antichrist, like for example, Hitler, would he have had to perform some sort of what would consider to be miracles in order to be considered an Antichrist figure, one of the many Antichrists?
Yeah, well, he certainly considered himself an Antichrist figure. He didn't run a beast empire, although he may have been looking at building that. So did he have, the question is did he have that power? He had a very small level of that power. He may have had part of the spirit in him, but so, I mean, his oratory capabilities were hypnotizing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right. That would be one of those powers, but he didn't have the full array of powers. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Now, modern day Antichrists, are you prepared to name any names of people today that might be considered one of the many Antichrists that are leading up to, like, for example, one of the names that comes to mind because of his charismatic ability would have been Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Perhaps, I don't know, Bill Gates. Can you name anybody that you think might, I
got it. Yeah. Yeah, and I do think that we want to be careful because there's going to be multiple Antichrist, and naming presidents who are typically too far down on the hierarchical structure and bloodlines is usually a mistake. It doesn't mean you couldn't have that, but it doesn't really seem to fit some of the prophecies, particularly in Daniel 8, where you have the Antichrist coming out of the Greek Empire, which also included the Roman Empire. But so if you look at that geography, that would probably where he would be coming out of. But families are where we can look at. So, I mean, you have, King Charles III, who just was anointed, and he's getting up there in age, but William is going to be taking over. This is a very powerful family, and who has a seat on the Order of the Golden Fleece of the Anjou, which is another important family. They have scion bloodlines that come from the Stuarts, from the Hanovers, from Vlad the Impaler, and all sorts of enhancing of that bloodline as one. And there's a lot of people think that King Charles III will be the Antichrist. He's certainly a possible candidate, has O negative blood, unicorn emblems on his coat of arms. I mean, lots of sorts of things. But the Anjou is another family. And the Anjou has 3 rivals to the King of Jerusalem title, but the legitimate title is held today by King Philippe Bourbon of Spain, inherited through the Habsburgs, who also have a claim to it. And that goes back to 1118 with the crowning of Baldwin II in a small priory on the rock of Zion to be the first king of Jerusalem, who is a descendant of is part of the Anjou family. where they have like it's split into three lines where they have those claims. But the Anjou family are descendants of Dagobert, the last descendant of the Merovingians, who have genealogies that goes back to giants, and also they scion in Davidic bloodlines and also bloodlines of the Benjamites, and particularly King Saul, from whom Joshua gave Jerusalem to the Benjamites. And that King of Jerusalem title that King Philippe now holds is that bloodline right that goes back to Joshua as part of having that bloodline scioned in. So you've got three rivals there. You've got President Xi in China,
Yes.
who is a bloodline from the Shah dynasty of the, created by the dragon creator gods and their Nephilim spirits offspring that ruled all of the dynasties going down. You've got a Putin who claims he's from the Putyanan bloodlines. You've got bloodlines all over the world that are starting to exert their control from behind, who are going to present Antichrist type figures. So yes, we can look at lots of families out of Europe, but we also need to look at things from a worldwide scale, especially when there's going to be multiple Antichrists. And one of the things that Antichrist really has to have to complete his deception is he has to have a counterfeit Armageddon and a counterfeit Antichrist that he takes credit for defeating, just as Jesus defeats Antichrist at Armageddon to introduce the millennium. So he has to pull all of that off. So that's why we have to be careful of the rising Antichrist and try and focus on which one is going to be the true Antichrist.
It's interesting you were talking about King Charles, because a couple of months ago I was in Europe, and I was in London, and I saw the crown jewels, and I'm in that room there, and there's and I felt very uncomfortable. Like a lot of people are in awe of royalty. I mean, we've followed Princess Diana, we followed this thing for there's celebrities, right? But when I felt queasy when I was in that room where they're showing the it's something didn't sit right with me. Not just the usual, this is two baubles, bangles, and beads and all that kind. But there was something that made me feel uncomfortable. Was I right to feel that way?
Yeah, when we're talking about the coronation of a royale, this is an ancient occult ritual passed down from the beginnings of prehistory. They are classified in their belief system to be a demigod, and their physical offspring and descendant and representative on earth of the gods that they worship. And so this is that ancient ritual, and not until Queen Elizabeth and then now King Charles III have we witnessed it. And it was a more scaled back version with King Charles versus Queen Elizabeth. But that's that ancient religion, and who they're swearing that oath to is not the God of the Bible, it's the God of their bloodline. And back to, as we would understand it from a biblical perspective, to the Council of Gods and the Baalim, who give them the divine right to rule. Just as Prince James, who bloodlines are signed on into King Charles, declared the most openly in terms of sort of infamy or being famous, his divine right to rule. That's what he's referencing. And that's that belief system that comes down through hereditary rights. And that's the hereditary rights of the royals. And this goes on all over the world with all of the royal families. It's a very similar ritual because it's all the same religion.
What about somebody like Donald Trump? And the reason I say that is, you said not just a president like Barack Obama or whatever, but there are indications that Donald Trump comes from a bloodline that might be royal. Is it possible that this
very
is
weak? Yeah, very weak. Pseudo blue bloods, as they would classify him.
Well, he would qualify then.
And he left that whole belief system and that whole political system because they wouldn't let him run. And he knows the inside out, and that's what makes him so dangerous. So when he wants to challenge that status quo, and he did a pretty good job. They rose up against him unlike anything we've ever seen before, and continued to do that because he is a very dangerous man, because he's more interested in his own agenda than their agenda. And I think America can benefit a lot from Trump's agenda, but we also have to understand he has his own agenda as well. So in this new world order that he's challenging, he doesn't say that the US shouldn't be part of it. He disagrees with the Europeans who say that the US should have a very reduced position in the New World Order. Trump says, no, we can have a New World Order, but we're going to have, as the US, a very large position. It's the identical argument that Xi is presenting and what Putin is presenting, and as others will present. So the Europeans are getting a big pushback from their New World Order view. There's going to be a New World Order. It's just not going to shape up exactly how the Europeans would like it to do. And they're not going to be able to sit back and have all the wealth of the US and all the blood of the US spilled forever for long as the attack dogs, unless they continue to have their sponsored candidates running the country like what we've seen in the last 4 years.
Now there is
take that 3 years. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. Now there is a series on Netflix. It was on for one season, I think, back in 2020, called Messiah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw it. I have not seen it yet. But I was planning on watching it this weekend, as a matter of fact. I think there's like 10 episodes or something along that line about, some individual in the Middle East who kind of emerges, and he's performing miracles and all this. And I think it's like the CIA goes in to see if, who he might be. And they're kind of wondering if he's like, the Christ and all that kind of stuff. Do you see the ultimate Antichrist as coming from that part of the world, the Middle East, because that's where Jesus came from? In other words, he wouldn't be an American, would he?
I think it's unlikely he's going to be American. And certainly you would have to include the Middle East as being part of the Roman and Greek empires.
Right.
So that's a possibility. We also have the Muslims with their Messiah,
the Mahdi
belief that comes out of the Hadiths. Yes, both the Shia and the Sunni have separate Mahdis, and they're likely going to have a war against each other to settle who is the sort of one that's going to unite the Muslims before all of this sort of shakes out. So we could see something very impressive coming out of there. It's still not the real Antichrist. So is it possible that the true Antichrist comes out of there? Sure. But I would also look for some sort of pedigree back to a Davidic and, according to the Europeans, a Jesus and Mary Magdalene bloodline pedigree as well, which doesn't seem to fit as easily with the Muslims, even though in the Quran, the Muslims do recognize Jesus as, a very powerful individual, a prophet, and that Mary was also highly venerated as well. But they want to see Jesus with the various factions in Islam, and particularly with the influence of the various hadiths of the different religions. They want to see Jesus kept at a prophet status and not at the Word of God status. So again, that sort of leans against that coming from a Muslim country, but you could have a Muslim country that produces a Messianic figure that's not necessarily Islam, that may say, I'm greater than Islam, and it's going to be part of this whole world thing. But still, you have that issue with their hatred of the Jewish people, which is antithetical to permitting them with the covenant in Daniel 9:27 to do the sacrifices on a wing overspreading extremity of the temple. So it's going to take a different kind of religion. And Antichrist, even though he does the negotiation, he doesn't come to power till the midpoint of the last 7 years, even though he negotiates the deal at the beginning of the last 7 years. So it's really, before Antichrist, you're going to have wannabe Antichrist figures and the universal religion and the 10 kings to deal with first.
Is it possible that the Antichrist comes out of Israel?
Yeah. I think there's a distinct possibility he's going to have a bloodline that, at least he says he has, that comes out of there as well. So he's got to have for him to not only negotiate the peace that Israel will have, he's got to be that one that they can look at as that Messianic figure. So he has to, for the Jewish people to buy into it, he has to have Davidic bloodlines. It just has to be there.
Yeah. I mean, because I know that the Jewish people wait for their Messiah. They don't think he's coming. And let me ask you this: does it have to be a man? Could it be a woman?
The language in Greek and Hebrew would suggest it's a male.
Okay.
So, I mean, does it have to be? No, but the language indicates that it likely is. So,
and in how far out do you think we are from all of this starting to come to pass?
Yeah. So, and I think we are in the fig tree generation.
Yeah.
And if we are, then when does that start and how long is that generation? So some people say 1947 when Israel declared their independence. And some people, I would lean, if there's a start date, it's probably 1967 where you get control of Jerusalem, because Jerusalem's the sort of epicenter for end time prophecy, as occupied by the southern kingdom of Judah at that time. So generation is 40 years in the time of Exodus. Psalm says 70 years, and Genesis 6:3 says 120 years. So that gives us some windows to look at. So if it's 1967 and it's 70 years, that puts the 2030s into play. But there's a lot of things yet to take place. And so a lot of people think that, and I'm hearing a lot of this, that they're projecting that what's going on in Israel today is going to start World War III.
That was my
and
next.
I think,
how
and
does
I think that,
playing out here affect this?
and I think they're just getting ahead of the chronology at this point.
Yeah.
So this is going to be part of the birth pangs and the sorrows getting stronger. So we're going to see more of this, so much so that Israel will trade land for peace at a certain point in time. But we're going to see more wars and catastrophes happen first, and it's going to be some very large turmoil throughout the Middle East before that settles out. And as it's doing it, we're going to see the rise of these 10 groups of empires starting to line up. And I think we're starting to see like 5 of the East starting to take shape that is going to challenge the 5 of the West, just as you have 5 toes on each of the feet of that empire in Daniel 2 in the metallic empire prophecy. And I think you're starting to see Russia, India, China starting to form as a pillar of it, and understanding that India has not taken a position on the Ukraine or the Israeli war. They get all of their energy from essentially Russia. I think they're going to move more in that direction. You have another country called Germany, which would be understood as Gomer biblically, that buys all of their energy for the most part from Russia, that I think will be forced to move in that direction. And you start to see an alliance that starts to form in Ezekiel 38 and 39, which is, I think, is the counterfeit Armageddon war that Antichrist is going to need to take credit for. And so I think we need to see that. And then I think we need to see those same types of influences driving other nations, let's say like North America, maybe it even includes the Great Britain on that, into a strategic alliance and economic alliance as part of those 10 kings. So I think the U.S. is going to be leading that and will be a dominant figure. But you're also going to see a European alliance that grows more aggressive. You're going to see an African alliance. You're going to see the world divided up into 10 groups of nations, and it will be similar to what the UN has done or the Club of Rome has done, but a little bit different because it isn't finalized yet. And the rising empires will have a say on what those borders are going to look like. But you're going to see Putin establish his empire. You're going to see China establish their empire. You're going to see the rise of the Persians. This all is starting to play out if we're in the fig tree generation, and I think that we are. So we're going to go through a lot more tragic catastrophes before we even get to the last 7 years.
On September the 22nd, Benjamin Netanyahu appeared before the United Nations General Assembly, a very sparse crowd, but he showed a map of the Middle East without Palestine on it. I think it certainly, in the short term, in the long term, you said Israel may trade land for peace, but in the short term, it certainly doesn't appear that way. They want Palestine wiped off. They want it all.
They do, and if you look at what they're saying, that's that ancient oath to wipe Israel from the face of the earth. It's a transgenerational thing that is happening. And you look at the people of Palestine, that's the descendants of the Philistines. And if you look at where Hamas is operating from, that is ancient Tyre. And Tyre and the Philistines, as well as other nations that include Arab nations, but in Psalms 83 talks about this transgenerational oath to wipe Israel from the face of the earth. They're not kidding. And Israel will fight for their survival, and they will do so for a long period of time, and they will survive. And even when it comes to World War III, where it's that Gog War, God is going to stand up and fight for Israel at that particular point in time, and then start to bring them back into the covenant over the last, say, 4 years after that, and in time for the Supper of the Lamb. But they're going to go through the time of Jacob's trouble, which is the Great Tribulation, to get there.
Interesting. Penny, do you have any questions about Hitler or this philosophy before we move on to maybe another?
I just had a joke that I tell about Nostradamus. That Nostradamus, when he was because he was on drugs too, Gary.
Yeah.
He did a lot of drugs. And
well, that's how they open up those portals to the demons and spiritual masters, right?
And that's why they promote drugs today, as a matter of fact. So I just told a joke that, Hitler, had some hearing problems, and they said, it's going to be, he says, it's going to be Hitler. And they said, no, Hitler. And no, Hitler. Okay, yeah, Hitler. Let's write down Hitler. No, it's Hitler. And I told David, he had some earwax in his ear.
Yeah, I saw that show. That was what was that? Was that Something Rotten? That's what it was. From Something Rotten.
Was it?
Yeah, that's what that's from. It's Something Rotten.
Is it really?
The musical, yeah.
I did not know that. I've never seen it before.
Oh yeah, that's
still funny.
Now, what about where does the Catholic Church fit into all of this with the Pope? The popes. I mean, a lot of people think the popes like this figure right now, Francis. I mean, this guy just fired a cardinal because he basically was
Texas. Yeah, he's too conservative.
As the Babylon Bee jokingly reported in its satire piece, for not being Catholic enough.
Yeah.
But what's your take on
he was also fighting the Church of Satan, Gary, in Texas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Francis has been progressively, so to speak, removing all of the conservatives and all around the world. He started right in the Vatican and removed the head of theology and replaced him with another Jesuit, which is basically another secret society and a Gnostic religion within the church. And a lot of people said when Francis became Pope that he was going to be Antichrist, or I said, no, he's not going to be Antichrist. There's too many things to happen and doesn't really kind of fit. He might be the false prophet, but probably not, because again, too many things to happen. Or he might be the anti-pope, and I'm not even sure he's the anti-pope, but he's certainly the preparation, as the Black Pope, which is a Jesuit leader, as he was described in the Nostradamus prophecies, is changing a lot of doctrine and preparation for the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church is going to play a role in the universal religion, but it's going to be wrapped into the larger one because it's going to be a mystical religion. So you're seeing that preparation, and I think so much so that they might be sort of the seed of the false prophets that are going to come out. So in the Catholic tradition, Mary is a very, very popular figure
Yeah.
to the level of being raised to like deity status and sinless and things like that. And that Mary apparitions have been all throughout sort of the church history, but typically from a Gnostic perspective as a queen of heaven, as an Isis figure, or the Sophia, supreme female goddess, is the mother of God, just as Sophia is the mother of the 12 archons in Gnosticism, that she created through this nebulous force that produced Satan and the God of the Bible, because they look at Satan and God as equal. And they have these prophecies that come with it, which is part of the oracular tradition, which is very similar to the Queen of Heaven of the Sibylline prophecies of ancient Rome, that was located at Palatine Hill within the original 7 hills, and Vaticanus Hill was a branch of the Sibylline prophecies, where the Vatican has built their location. And that the one that I would still look forward to see, and I don't know what the date is because they didn't announce it, but they said at the time there's a specific date they're coming out, and this was the Medjugorje apparitions in the 90s, where Mary, and she's depicted in those apparitions, as with all of the ones, as the image of the woman in Revelation 12, initiated 6 children that will come out with 10 prophecies of apocalyptic doom to convert to the true religion or be wiped from the face of the earth. I would look for something like that, whether that's the seed of it, or other types of those types of false prophets that are going to come out, that's going to make the way for the universal religion, with all of the war and turmoil that goes along with it, as these 10 empires are jockeying for political position. So we're going to see wars that are going to look apocalyptic. We're going to see false prophets predicting these wars and contrived catastrophes of the sorrows as they get stronger, so that people convert to the true religion, which is what Theosophy calls themselves, the true religion. So you see the consistency of the doctrine sort of lining up. So I would look for that to completely take over the Catholic Church, just as they've officially recognized, starting in about 2017, 2018, the apparitions at Medjugorje, and the Vatican has control over those centers right now. Look for more of that, but look for these kinds of false prophets that will enter the stage as things start to really get apocalyptic looking.
Well, two things to address the 2 points that you're making. Pope Francis may not be an antichrist, but he is antichrist in his preachings, because he's nothing he's doing seems to follow the teachings of Christ. So it's not the antichrist, but he's antichrist. The second thing, with regard to Mary, the Catholic Church is the only one, and I was raised Catholic, who as you said, comes close to deifying Mary. But I think part of where they get that, every other denomination of Christianity seems to think of Mary only as a vessel for the birthing of the Son of God. But I think where the Catholic Church came to deify Mary is when Christ is dying on the cross, and he says to his disciples, "Behold your mother." And I think that led people to believe, okay, my father is God the Father, and this is your mother. So I think that's why the Catholics believe in praying to her
as the mother of God.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's an overstatement sort of the position, right? And the actual facts. But that's how they get there with that sort of understanding. So what's interesting is, as in you're talking about antichrist, and anti can also mean before and replacement. And in the Catholic Church they have the anti-pope. And that's kind of what the last pope is also called. And what was interesting about Francis is that he actually replaced another pope while he was still alive, and was actually an anti-pope and a black pope from the Nostradamus and Gnostic. But again, I think they would have liked to have made him that last pope that converted it. But just as with the globalists, Francis is finding it's very difficult to get there, because it's not quite time yet. And so as we do get closer, though, these events will happen very, very rapidly. But Francis is doing many things to permit the consolidation of Christian religions in with the meetings in the world church, and then crossing over to other religions to be working together. And so he's opening the door to that whole process, but he may not be the one that brings it about.
Now, where can people order your book? Tell us about your website in the few minutes we have left.
So if you're interested in getting a hold of me or purchasing my book or finding out about my books, the best place to go is to my website, which is the Genesis6conspiracy.com. That's the Genesis 6 and number 6 conspiracy.com. And on that website, you can get a generous excerpt of all 98 chapters of book 1 that's available for sale on Kindle or print. And you can also get a generous excerpt of all 84 chapters of book 2, Genesis 6 Conspiracy Part 2, How Understanding Prehistory and Giants Helps to Define End Time Prophecy. It's an excerpt up there, but it's only available for pre-order at this point, and Kindle is not yet available for pre-order, but Amazon does have the digital copy, so they may start taking pre-orders on that fairly quickly. We're looking for a release date of March 12th. Hoping to beat that date by quite a bit. I think that, it's a very safe date based on industry issues. So you have to meet that date. We're hoping to beat that date. So hopefully early in the new year to make that available. And you can also link over to barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com, amazon.ca, and the Kindle edition for both of those books as well. If you're interested in some information on the 7 hills that we're talking about today, I have some documents that you can get a hold of me through the website. Just name it by a topic and I'll send you those documents. I do that at no charge. If you wanted the links to get those records from Congress, I can send you those links.
Yes.
Just get a hold of me. It may take me a little bit to get back to you. I am shortening that list now. I'm down to about a 2-week time from 3 months. So I've been working hard at that. And just my apologies to the audience today. I am recovering from COVID, so I'm not quite as as sharp as I would like to be today.
I thought you were pretty done. I never would have known.
Wow,
You were spot on as
that
ever.
was like you're
Believe me.
extraordinary.
I certainly wish you a complete, speedy recovery. And no, you were right on today. So if you felt off, it did not show. I will tell you that.
Well, I appreciate that.
No problem. Now, the next time we have you on, we had a guest. She's a regular contributor to the program, and I don't know how she would feel and how Penny would feel, because she's actually Penny's best friend, who's also she considers her sister, but she comes on the program. And the last time she was on, which was the end of last week, she presented a theory, and I'm sure you might have heard this before, that perhaps Jesus really didn't die on the cross. He escaped or faked his death and is still on the earth today. And I would either like to have her come on the program and address her concerns, her questions with you, or at least if not, if she doesn't want to come on the program, I'm going to send you a copy of her segment from last week Friday via email for you, so that when you come on, we can address this theory, because I think it would be a fascinating conversation.
Sure. Either or. Yeah, absolutely.
We'll talk about that. But anyway, please go to Genesis6conspiracy.com, order the book for Christmas, order the first one. And then when the second one, and then just put a little note in there that says you're going to get the second one too when it comes out. It'll make a great Christmas gift. Gary, thank you so much for being with us. We'll talk to you soon.
Well, thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Gary Wayne here on the Awake Nation. What do you think about that? Would Susie come on? That was a very fascinating theory. I thought I really would love to, she could come on a Tuesday with Gary.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll have to ask her. You won't be, this is not going to be done to challenge her, or there's not going to be an argument. I just want her. I thought she made some very interesting points, and I thought it might be a good conversation starter. So maybe she can come on. And if she doesn't want to do that, then I'll send him what she said last Friday, and we'll get into that. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's time to investigate the paranormal. Go ahead. Has it been? Oh, that's not it. That's it. All right. And we'll do that with Brent Thomas in just a moment. The next hour of the Awake Nation will be brought to you by the X39 patch. Guys, you guys got to get the X39 patch. It helped my wife get rid of her tinnitus. She was really worried about that. And it's something I think that you guys are going to find is going to be very helpful. So check this out. It's from Life.
We all hope to age gracefully so we can enjoy our later years full of energy, vitality, and good health. But so often, with age, our bodies start to show signs that things just aren't as they used to be. Our energy, skin, healing and recovery time, sleep, it all just seems to go downhill. Unless you're using LifeWave. Since 2004, LifeWave has been delivering its amazing life-enhancing technology to people across the world, always helping the body do what it was designed to do, only better. And as it turns out, the best was yet to come. David Schmidt, our founder, creative force, and world-class inventor behind LifeWave technology, has recently achieved something in the field of regenerative science with a single LifeWave patch that researchers worldwide, spending years and billions of dollars, could not. Introducing LifeWave X39, the world's first product ever to activate stem cells. A true breakthrough in regenerative science that helps restore our bodies to a healthier, more youthful state in a way no other product can. The secret? By harnessing the power of LifeWave's patented phototherapy, X39 uses light to elevate a peptide proven to signal the activation of stem cells. Think about it. These are the cells that generate and regenerate all the cells and structures of the human body. They're the building blocks for our organs, tissues, blood, and immune system. They also serve as an internal repair system everywhere. But as we age, stem cells become less effective. Their ability to repair damaged tissue is reduced. In fact, by age 60, they've slowed dramatically. But all that changes when just one LifeWave X39 patch is placed anywhere on the body each day. Instead of older and less effective stem cells, X39 supports the production of younger and healthier stem cells. This amazing level of control over your vitality and well-being was simply not possible, let alone this easy, until now. And the best part? Like all LifeWave patches, X39 is safe, non-invasive, and incredibly cost-effective. Look what people are saying about LifeWave X39. Backed by clinical studies, multiple patents, and 20 years of development, any one of these benefits would be impressive. But X39 is so effective, it can influence everything about your body. How you look, feel, perform, and heal. It's time you experience the power of X39. Live long, live well, live younger. Experience the power of LifeWave today.
All right, just head on over to our website, awakenation.tv or theawakenation.com, which is our news site. And we will, you can go to the sponsors row portion of the website and order the X39 patch. This thing does amazing things for you, and you are not going to want to miss that. All right, let's bring in our next guest, Brent Thomas, Paranormal Portal is the name of his show, and he's fantastic. Brent, how are you today?
Oh, I'm embracing the day, like a stranglehold, David. I'm grabbing hold, and I'm going to ride it out.
So, all right. You're not suffering from COVID too, are you, by the way?
No, I'm just suffering from mourning. It's like
mourning. Yeah, welcome to my world.
This is where my world starts, and it's about where my brain processes are able to cope right now. But
yes.
But I love you guys, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to come on. So I'm.
Are you? What time zone are you in?
I'm Pacific. So.
Oh my God. Okay, so it's like 8 o'clock where you are, 5 after 8 or whatever. Well, welcome. Thank you. I really appreciate you waking up and getting us going here. So.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. I do love every opportunity I can to get out and talk about this stuff because, again, as we discussed last time, I think this stuff is important. I really do. I think it's not just the weird, glitchy stuff. It's something's going on that's demonstrating some pretty profound stuff about our reality. So, yeah.
All right. Well, what do we want to talk about today?
Well,
He
you
actually
know,
he sent me a video.
Oh,
I do have that video in my PowerPoint.
all right.
yeah.
Let's play that then.
Do you want to introduce it, Brent?
Well, sure. You know, on my live shows, it's maybe by virtue of doing the paranormal and stuff that sometimes weird stuff happens around the studio, and I do like paranormal investigating. I've gone to many locations, ghost towns, Saint Ignatius Hospital and such, and conducted actual investigations and had a blast and had some pretty incredible things happen. But I think that there's something to be said for resonance, like when you're energetically focused on something, that maybe that something becomes aware of you. And so I have weird things that happen in the studio, and I also, as part of the scope of the show, like to introduce people to concepts such as paranormal investigating and talk about the tools and things. So I'd set it up in my studio just with the idea that maybe something would happen, but I didn't have high hopes. But mostly I wanted to introduce the ideas to my audience that, this is a flashlight test. The idea is that, it's a twist on flashlight, and with very little manipulation, of spirits allegedly can manipulate that and make it go on and off for yes or no answers, or EMF detectors by presence, other anomalies, and a ghost box build that uses only fractions of words. And if you hear full words, that's anomalous. And so I set it all up and was doing the show. And then I ended up getting an incredible amount of feedback and response, and I was blown away. And this was streaming live, and full disclosure, I will never ever fake anything or set up anything in order to be sensational. Whatever you see is whatever you get. I was fully prepared for it just to be a talk about the equipment, but we got a lot more.
Well, that's good. We'll play the video, and yeah, we're going to bring that in.
Again, there will never be my word to God. I will never do anything on this show that's not legitimate and correct. I mean, I love when activity happens, but it's not worth my integrity. And so I want you guys to know that what you're seeing on the show is really happening live as we're going. It's not being manipulated by me. It's not being trickery in any way. Could you please make that ball on the table light up? Okay, please go ahead and do that if you would. Thought I heard sure, but the flashlight came on. Well, we'll take that too. That's really appreciated as well. I appreciate you letting us know that you're here. Could you also make that ball light up? The little ball towards the edge of the table? Okay, how about the little ball though? Yeah, okay. It is really muddier though. Maybe I'll turn down the reverb a little more. I'm just going to turn this down a little more. That's me. I'm probably doing that. No, I'm not. Never mind. Wasn't me. That was the REM pod. I thought that was me because I was turning down that dial. The object with the red light on it, the big red light, if you go close to that object, oh, there's the cat ball. How about the flashlight? Can you do the flashlight as well? You can do it. It's a little louder now. Again, the other thing you have to think about in terms of this is that, and it's something I've mentioned several times here on the show, we don't know how much effort it takes for them to do what we're asking. So you do have to give them an opportunity to do it. It might be a hell of a Herculean exertion for all we know. Well, now it's flickering on and off like crazy. Making it look really easy, but I mean, it might be a huge effort for them to do this. So when you ask for something, you do have to give them space to make it happen. So this is wonderful. Thank you so much for being a part of what we're doing. That sounds like you're welcome. It might just be me, but I swear it sounded like a quick you're welcome. How many of you are here? Can you give me a number of how many spirits are here with us? Can you make, I was going to say, can you make the flashlight light up? And then it lit up. Okay, can you turn off the flashlight completely, please? Almost. You almost got it. Turn it all the way off if you would, please. Oh, well, okay. I guess you can make it light up if you want to, if you'd rather do that. There you go. You got it all the way off. Good job. So I heard one. I heard one. Like that. Oh. So there's one of you in here. Okay. Can you share with me your name, please, or a name you'd like to be called? Is there indeed just one of you here, or is there several? If there's several, light up the cat ball. If there's one, light up the flashlight. What was that voice? That was weird. I forgot which order I said. What did I say for the cat ball and what did I say for the flashlight? Because the flashlight is on a little bit. I don't know which one I said. Are you stuck or trapped? If you're stuck or trapped, can you make that device with the red light or the flashlight? You may be stuck, huh? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my God, both of them went off. You are stuck. Wow, dudes, chills right now. I got chills. That's amazing. Wow. Okay, can you turn the flashlight off, please? Please turn off the flashlight. No, the other way. Other way. There you go. Thank you. That's incredible. Come on, guys. Really? Right? Did you hear light? I heard light. Like an echoey voice. Light, light, light. Hello? Are you there? Yes? Okay. We'd still like to know what name to call you. Peter? Did I hear Peter? Yeah. If you would, I just need verification. If your name is Peter or you'd like to be called Peter. Okay. Hi, Peter. Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming here to talk with us. We appreciate it. Okay, can you turn off the light, Peter? If you would, I'd appreciate it. There you go. Good job, Peter. Thank you. Okay, so you're not stuck. If you're not stuck, will you turn on the light for us, please? I see the light coming on a little bit. It really is pretty crazy. I gotta admit, this is one of the most active nights I've ever had doing this. If not the most active so far. Okay, so you're not stuck. That's wonderful. Okay, well, that's good because I certainly wouldn't want you to be stuck. Yeah, okay. Huh. To think I was thinking, maybe we should just do a regular show tonight. I'm so glad we did this. Let's see, where are you? Peter, where are you? It's right there, folks. Well, thank you, Peter. Appreciate that. I've just got chills like crazy. It's awesome. This is incredible. This is all happening live, folks. Wow. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate it. This is just cool. Very cool. Peter, are you always here, or did you just? Yes, you are. Okay, you're always here. Well, that's wonderful. It's nice. It's nice to have a name to call you. I appreciate that. Good night, everybody.
Okay, so can you tell us what was that?
So there were several different modalities placed on the table. Now that I'm sitting in my studio here, the table's actually about 5 feet over there, so it's a little bit removed from me. Even though on screen it looks like it's this way, it's not. But I had a flashlight on, it's just a normal mag light that has the twist on or off. And basically, the idea is that you position that on or off very carefully between the on and off, just barely off. And the idea then being that a spirit can utilize their energy in order to trigger the light and give you responses. And there's a lot of debate about it, but I think the key takeaway is when you get the activity that corresponds directly with questions, because random and atmospheric things can happen with these lights, whether it's has to do with moisture, heat, cold, whatever, can affect that as well. But when you're consistently getting responses in perfect timing or close timing to actual questions and inquiries, then it becomes, in my mind and many others, very powerful. Also on the table was all the pedals and speaker and stuff it's based on a build by a guy named Charles Huff, or I think his name is Charles Huff, but it's Huff Paranormal, and they make a portal device. And basically what it utilizes is a database of partial words. So if you said school, it might be sk or ool. It won't have any complete words in it. It's then fed into a noise gate, which cleans it up, and then fed into a reverb to give it more sound space, kind of like a white noise space that you hear about in paranormal investigating. And then it's fed into a speaker. And the idea is, and it's a concept called, and if I'm pronouncing this right, I might be brutalizing it, but stochastic resonance. It's the idea that spirits can take like white noise, static noise, and create sound in it. And so that's what that is. And then the other device was just a cheap little cat ball. And the reason those are interesting, they can be not necessarily reliable as far as a standalone, hey, this is proof. But when you're getting because they're motion activated or have to be interacted with in order to flash. But if you're getting activity in concert with other indicators, then it becomes so much more powerful. So we got words, we got the flashlights on and off, and the cat ball was triggered. It was just really powerful to me that I had 3 methods of detection and all 3 were being triggered.
How do the lights work?
The cat ball light or the little ball, or which light?
Like how are they? Is there voice triggering the light?
No.
What is triggering the light?
The little ball is triggered by motion. So in other words, they are absolutely standalone little LED lights in there, and they're made for cats. They're made as cat toys. But
okay, so then something was in the room, is what you're saying?
Right, something was interacting with that device, and it might be just be energetic, because I don't see it move, but it's still being triggered by something. Something is happening to trigger it, and I've got a bunch of those. And again, as a standalone and all by themselves, I don't think you can rely on that as a real solid case for paranormal activity. But it's in conjunction with other elements that it becomes much more plausible.
I'm blown away by this, and I will say that Peter, or whatever his name was, sounded a lot more articulate than some of the other people we've had on this program over the course of all these many years.
Very true.
I'll see if he's open to be interviewed.
Oh yeah. We'll see if we can. We'll see if we can tune him in and bring him on at some. So this happened
tell him to
during
text my phone.
Yes, it happened during a live show. It was absolutely again, I was planning on setting it up just to discuss the tools that I was using in these investigations when I go off, out of my studio and stuff. So I mean, I really didn't know what to think, and I'd had other triggers in the past. I'd done this many times before, but this night just everything was lining up, and it was just really spot on, and it just really blew me away because when you have several elements that are triggering anomalies, then it's like, wait a minute, there's got to be something here.
What you had there was absolutely terrific. We should tell you, who was the guy, Penny, that we had on that had
I will not
phones?
say any names. But
Had
there
phones
was
tell the story. It's amazing.
he had phones set up all over his studio, and they weren't hooked up to any kind of internet, and he was getting transmissions through the phone.
These were dead phones.
But
They had no Wi-Fi.
Right. But the main thing that was kind of concerning me was that he showed this one, it wasn't like an x-ray, but like it was a shot outside.
Night vision
outside, and querying as to what this was. And Brent, I'm pretty sure it was a cat. I'm just saying, it looked like a cat.
I thought he captured some sort of a cryptid, And then,
it looked like a cat.
Yeah, and then we had another guy who was on the program who claimed he had these dolls. He goes to antique stores and buys little, like Cupid dolls or something.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, this weirdo possessed dolls.
And they move around in the studio while he's on the air and that sort of thing. What you showed is extremely convincing. That's credible. But some of these other things, I don't know.
Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are looking for attention, and they'll I don't know these gentlemen at all, but I certainly don't trust that it's on command and that simple. Like, hey, I got phones on. Look we're catching voices, or look at all these haunted dolls. Hey, they're moving. Check it out. I just the one thing about the paranormal is it's like catching lightning in a bottle. You may go 1,000 times out there and catch very little. In fact, if you go in an investigation, one Class A EVP is just like the holy grail. But when you get people with these, and I like to refer to them as orgies of evidence, and it's kind of a homicide term when something looks set up, like there's just too much.
Too much.
When that happens, you got to question it. It's like
most of these shows that are on evidence. Most of these shows that are on Discovery, or I sit there and that it's like there's no way the network is going to pay for somebody to do a show and for like a half hour. We got nothing at night, so something has to happen.
Sure, it's got to be sensational,
Except for Geraldo Rivera, 6 hours in.
Oh yeah, that was. What was the name of it? Al Capone's Vault. I'll never forget that.
6 hours in Al Capone's Vault. And even the cameramen weren't going, dude, seriously? This is messed up. And it's time for lunch. We're out of here. Come on, man. 6 hours, just change the crew out because we're leaving. We know there's nothing here. And 6 hours of your life just got sucked down.
Or all those just float
Rivera's
down the toilet. He got 6 hours of camera time, so for Haldo, I think that's a win. But
and whatever the revenue is for all the commercials that he played during there, we'll be right back. We're still in this hole looking for Al Capone's, lost whatever. I mean, I found more evidence at the Green Mill in the bathroom where it said Momo was here.
You'd think at some point somebody would have just sunk a hole and sent one of those scopes in there. It's like, is there anything in there?
Or just or planted something, right? Planted something in there. Like Al Capone's a handkerchief and a couple of bones and some dogs or something.
Has anything else ever besides this was amazing? I mean, and very credible, as I said. But has anything like this Any other times you've been doing a live show where something weird happened?
Yeah, I've set it up several times, and generally speaking, a lot of times it's just voice stuff, the verbal stuff through the box. But
Right.
and it might be it's a 2-hour show.
Right.
Maybe the cat ball would go off one time, or the flashlight would trigger one time or something. It's just real disparate, and you can't really conclude in much on that other than something happened. But
Right.
this night it was just, things really lined up. There's other nights that have been really, really impressive as well, but this one so far still is, the one that I was like, oof, just blew me away. I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, no, it was that is absolutely amazing. Now, in the few minutes we have left, tell people where they can find your show and everything like that. I want to promote that.
Sure, thank you. The easiest way is to go to paranormalportal.net, and that's the homepage for the Paranormal Portal. It features all the social media links to the audio podcast that's out on the internet in Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and then also the YouTube channel is linked there too, where you can catch these live streams. And generally, my live streams are more of a variety show, but every once in a while I'll break out the equipment.
It looks like you take telephone calls.
Yes.
And you show your chat room right now so you can see what people are talking about. We don't do that with this show. We should put get a screenshot of the chat room or something. Try to put that in there.
Sometimes the chat room's scary, as Brent knows. Sometimes the chat room is more scary than your show.
Yeah, the key is having good mods. I've got amazing mods, but I got an amazing community too. I don't have trolls and people coming in trying to, to raise trouble because they get kicked right away. It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. Well, listen, we want everybody to tune into your show. And when is it broadcast?
The live streams are Wednesday, Friday, Saturday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So whatever that means to your time zone.
Okay, so that's at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. So
yes.
That's listen, that's a great way to end your evening. You'll go to bed scared out of your mind, probably. You'll be looking under the bed, and any weird lights that flash outside, like a car goes by and the headlight goes through you.
Voices.
Oh my God!
You go to your psychiatrist. Why are you hearing voices? I don't know. I was watching Brent Thomas's show.
It's been known to happen. That's all I'm saying. Actually, I have had people that are listening to my show email me and like, every time I listen to your show, weird things start happening in my house. And I'm like, oh,
great.
Sorry. So it's always a pleasure to be on here. Thank you guys so much for having me. This is awesome.
Thank you.
We enjoyed it, and we look forward to doing it again real soon. So paranormalportal.net is where you go to get all the links to everything. It's like it's amazing, just absolutely amazing. Thanks for the great video that you presented to us. That it was absolutely out of this world.
It's my pleasure. Thank you guys. Have a great rest of your day.
All right, you
Thank
too.
you.
Bye bye. Brent Thomas, paranormalportal.net. Check it out. He'll be back. He's a regular contributor to the show as well. And in a moment, we are going to bring in our next guest. Now, I'm going to set this up a little. Let's bring him in right now because I've got some things I want to talk to him about. So let's bring in Alan Gunnar Lindbloom.
How you guys doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
How are you guys? It's funny. I want to say this too before we get started. That guest, I gotta have. Ben, you gotta hook me up with him too. And here's the reason why. I have. I'm starting a new YouTube channel with a co-host, guy named Anthony DiPaolo, who's an author of kind of this series. It's kind of paranormal / action suspense. A little bit of Indiana Jones in there. It's really good. It's an interactive author, so he has these websites set up to where while you're reading the book, and everything is kind of inspired by true ancient lore and mythology, and so when you're reading it, it seems very real. The story it's unfolding, and then he references particularly websites and things like that. And you can go there and even use a QR code to click with your phone and in the book. And this is going to be in his new book. And it like pulls up a video or like a trailer, and everything seems like it's very real, like research from archaeologists and stuff. So I'm going to help him start a YouTube channel. and like your last guest would be perfect for us to go on his show, him to go on our show, and we're going to talk about. So the name of the series is called Dragonstorm by Anthony DiPaolo, and so we're going to call this channel Dragonstorm: Myth, Legend, and Lore. What's fact, truth, facts, and fiction. So we're gonna dive into all these crazy myths and legends and things from around the world, and there's thousands of them, and they're all really fascinating. Some are involved paranormal stuff, and just just unbelievable stuff. We were just talking about one is in India, this incredible thing in India where they had 8 vaults in India in this temple, and they opened it up, and there was $30 trillion worth of assets in it. Trillion. Think about that. So I mean, the provenance of it was like 20 trillion, but like 10 trillion in gold and diamonds and stuff. Man, unbelievable. It's real. You can look it up. I looked it up. I'm like, how do I not know about this? But anyways, thank you, Penny. I appreciate that. So, and the other thing I wanted to say regarding that particular guest which is kind of fascinating, is so I had another guest author on. Her name is Lucky Luciano. Excuse me, not Lucky Luciano. His name is Nikki Luciano. Nikki Luciano. She writes kind of paranormal stuff, and I interviewed her for my radio show the other day. And I'm not joking. This is the second time I interviewed her, and the second time this happened. And during the interview, there was this strange like reverb, almost like I don't know, like ghostly voice in the background, and it's scary. And I'm not joking. And my editor, when he was going through, he could separate the sound, where he could say this is his voice and this is her voice, but this is completely separate from her or my voice. It's some like a third party something, and it's scary and spooky. And we actually released her for our Halloween edition, which was perfect, and it was really scary. And the other thing is, while I'm in the middle of this, I'm up here. It's night. It's dark in here. All of a sudden, I think I see something like flash by me. It was creepy, man. I'm just saying. I'm not like, I don't get into that type of stuff like ghosts and like stuff, because it creeps me out. But now I'm going to be doing this show with this guy, which is, it's not ghosts and stuff like that. It's more like mythology and legends and lore. What happened to the Mayans and how did the Nazca lines get there and things like that.
Well, we got a guy for you that does nothing but the Nazca lines. I can hook you up with this guy.
Yeah, hook me up, man. We'll have a lot of fun. But what did you want to ask me?
Well, you're talking about things that haunt you, right? We're talking about the paranormal. I've got something that may haunt you and it may not. There's a guy, and he's on YouTube, and the name of his show is The Mobster Chronicles. Have you heard of him?
Oh my God! So let me just stop you there. So this is a dude I beat up 30 years ago, and he's obsessed with trying to call me a liar, prove me wrong.
Yeah.
And so he's taken a bunch of things I've said either out of context, clip things together. They don't understand. When you tell a story that's 30 years old on the fly, you may get a couple of facts wrong. Or if you tell the story 5 years apart, you're telling on one show and telling on a show. The main reason is because if you're trying to protect the identity of somebody in the story, you change the name. You also, if you're trying to protect the identity of yourself, or you don't want to incriminate yourself on something that could be still an open investigation, you have to change things a little bit, even though there's statute of limitations. But I was involved in some shootings and things like that. So anyways, so you change the name of someone in the story. Then you tell the story 5 years later. And I'm like, I don't even remember what the name was. I changed it to, so I'm going to call him Frank this time. And then they're like, oh, he said it's Tony this time, but it's Frank now. See, he's a liar. And like here's a classic one was, I talked about how Tony Giacalone taught me to play poker when I was a little kid. And I told the story originally, and I was like, I think originally, and I said I was like 5, 6 years old. I was very young. But then I got to thinking, over the years, I'm like, man, would he really try to teach me poker when I was 5? So I'm like, so I must have been 8 or 9 or 10. So I told the story again in another show. And I said, I think when I was like 8, 10, and somebody goes, he was in prison when you were 10. See, you're lying. I'm like, okay, so I was 7. Whatever the case is, it was 43 years ago when I was a little kid. All I remember from that day is he sat me down, gave me a $20 bill for my birthday, sat me down, taught me and my cousins to play poker.
And the only other thing I remember was shooting a peanut from a spoon in my cousin's ear, and it exploded, and he ended up in the hospital. But I mean, other than that, you know, you have these little glimpses of memories. You know, they just they don't understand it. Like I said that there was a tunnel in the house that I lived in, right? And they said that was used for prohibition. Well, that house was built in 1952. What they don't get is that my great grandfather was a builder who bought the house that was originally there that had the tunnel, dozed it, and built a new house over it for my grandparents' wedding gift. And that's why the tunnel was there. So when my uncle told me when I was like 10, he says, yeah, the tunnel was used for prohibition because it went to a canal and they snuck liquor up the canal and then brought it into these tunnels. He told me that when I was like 10, so I told it. And somebody goes, oh, that house was built in 1952. How could? But, you know, that's what they do. They just take things out of context and don't know what the F they're talking about. So I pretty much ignore them. But the one dude is, I beat the guy up years ago when I was 30 years ago. I was like 19 years old. So it's a long story. He was beating up some guy on the side of the road. It looked like he was bullying him. So me and my boys jumped out and, you know, we beat him up. You know what I'm saying? Because he looked like he was bullying the other guy. And so I punched him in the face. He took off running. Me and my boys chased him. We caught him. We beat him up a little bit. Not real bad.
So this is his revenge, basically. This is his revenge.
Yeah. And then, so when I got out of prison, so the irony of this coward is that couple years later, I was in an adult ed school, and he walks up to me in an adult ed school, and he goes, "You see the scar on my face?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "You did that?" I'm like, "When?" And he tells me, and I'm like, "Oh, my bad, bro. We thought you were bullying this dude. He's all beat up and bloody. You're punching him in the face." He's like, "No, this guy, he did this, that. He was the bully." And I said, "All right, well, whatever, man." Like, he didn't say, "Hey, you want to fight? You want to work?" You know, like, "Hey, I got you now." Like, it was me. I wanted to beat a guy who beat me up. I walked up and said, "What's up? You did this to my face." Wham! And I would have freaking start beating him. He didn't do nothing. So he wanted to be my buddy. Then years later, when I got out of prison, he messaged me. So he tells me he's mentally ill, and he lives in Seattle, and he's on Social Security because he doesn't work. And he just said, I said, "Why don't you work?" He said, because I said, "Man, listen, I'm sorry what I did. I apologize for years ago. And you know what, I was bad. I don't condone what I did. I'm sorry." And he's like, "Yeah, I forgive you. It's all good." I said, "Oh, cool. Thank you for forgiving me. I appreciate it. And I really feel bad about it, whatever." And I'm like, "How are you?" And he's like, I don't work. I'm mentally ill. And then all of a sudden, he starts stalking me on YouTube, and him and a couple other of these weird spastic mod groupies just make it their life to kind of discredit me, which is funny because I'm dealing with like major television producers, and now they're going to make a documentary and all these things. Like, they know, even Armand Asante, he's like, "This happens. This is going to happen for somebody like you. This is normal. This is."
Well, in this one video, he was attacking your relationship, saying you confused the character that Armand Asante played in the movie with somebody you said you knew, and blah blah blah. I mean, yeah.
I mean, I don't even see. That's the ridiculousness of it. I don't watch those things. Somebody told me they make them. You know, there's a couple hundred hours that's, you know, like, "Oh, yay." I don't watch them. I don't care. I know my life. I know what I did. I knew who I was around. It's not. I never played myself up. Never said I was in the mob. Never said I was a big shot mobster. Just said I grew up around these people, and I became a criminal.
That's true. I mean, you everything that you've said has been, it sounded spot on to me. I think this guy's got a vendetta for you, and it sounds like an idiot. But I just felt we needed to address it.
I personally want to say that of all the bad things that you ever did, Alan Lindbloom, you shot a peanut in your brother's ear. Really?
Not my brother. It was actually, I said cousin just a second ago, but it was actually my friend, kid named Justin. Nice kid too. I was just, they had all these little peanut mixed nut bowls on the table, you know, because my grandparents live in a nice house in Grosse Pointe. They threw me a birthday party for like my 6th, 7th birthday. I don't know what it was. I was very young, and we were all sitting around, and I took a peanut out of the thing, and I went like this to my buddy next to me, bang, and it just happened to go straight into his ear, like exploded. So he starts screaming and crying. He can't hear it, smashed in there. They have to take him to the hospital. Kind of ruined the vibe, but that's, and then, like I said,
nice shot though.
Yeah, right. I didn't mean it. It was an accident. But anyways, that same day, Tony Giacalone, very famous mobster, walks in with my uncle Nicky, who is I believe my grandmother's brother, walks in, and
wished me happy birthday. He gave me $20, and then they go in the kitchen and talk with the adults. And then he comes in. He says, "You guys know how to play poker?" No. Sit down. I'm going to teach you how to play poker. And he teaches us to play poker. He's the house. He's cutting every pot, you know, a couple pennies, penny poker. Teaches us the hand. After like an hour, you kind of get the gist of it. And like my cousin ends up winning everything because he's all in. And boom, boom, boom. And he says, "So who's the big winner?" And we're like, Anthony. And he's like, "No, I'm the big winner because look at what I got." And in front of him, he's got a big pile of pennies. Like, "I never played a hand, but look what I got." It's like, if you're going to gamble, you be the house. You always be the house. Never gamble against the house. And I basically, that stuck with me my entire freaking life until about a year before I got locked up. For whatever dumbass reason, I just started gambling. I started playing blackjacks. I went to Vegas. I started playing blackjacks in Vegas. I won some money. And thought, wow, this is easy. And then I started gambling, and gambling's an addiction. I got addicted to it pretty quickly. And at the same time, having a drug habit. And this is what led me down my path of self-destruction. But yeah, I mean, those, to your point, with the dudes, like, I don't understand. These dudes will watch every single video and interview I've ever done. And I'm probably done hundreds. And I've made hundreds of videos, and then they will find where I like take one little detail that I say differently, or a name I say differently, and they clip it together in these little videos. Try to make it's shocking how obsessed they are and how weird, And it's weird that you would obsess over another man. I'm like, I'm just out here living my life, man. If I tell a story that's 30, 40 years old on the fly, I'll admit I might get things wrong. I don't rehearse them. I don't script these things. They're just my memory from my memory. And it's very well established, who my mother was, my grandfather was, and they try to discredit it. Like my grandfather is Peter Tocco. His cousin was the boss, Jack Tocco, right? So that's not, they lived 3 blocks apart, right? Grew up in the same neighborhood, lived there for 60 years together, went to the same church, same everything. They were close, and the whole family all lived right in that area. And then they like to say, I don't have any association with them. I'm like, I live with my grandparents who grew up, who was the mafia was their family. I'm not saying I was the mobster, but a couple of old mobsters when I was in my teens and 20s were like, hey, I could use this guy. He's a tough guy. Not a lot of tough guys left anymore. All the kids are growing up to be, white collar criminals or not even criminals at all. So they saw a guy like me. I was in trouble, I was out of jail, I was catching felonies, catching cases, I was beating people up. They're like, hey man, you want to make a buck? And I need help collecting some money. I need this to do this, to do that. And that's all I ever said I did. And that's it. But but there's a strange subset, a very strange subset of really weird, obsessed mob groupies. And here's the problem with them. The problem is they're so used to being able to Google up somebody's story, because all the mobsters that they're familiar with on YouTube and stuff, they're usually cooperators, rats. And so there's files, tons of files, court documents and 302 files and FOIA files that they can reference. So they can Google up documents and say, oh, if this guy said he did this, I can reference it here and say, oh yeah, he did that, or he's lying, or whatever. Now with me, I was just a 25-year-old thug, basically. And I didn't get indicted for organized crime. I got indicted for extortion and bank robbery and a bunch of crime. But there's nothing directly tying me to the mafia, which is by design. Of course, you don't.
You robbed the bank?
I robbed the bank. Yeah, I robbed several banks. Yeah.
No.
You got caught. The last one I got caught.
What do you think about COVID? When they were wearing masks in the banks?
I mean, COVID. Don't get me started on COVID. COVID was basically the greatest scam in the history of human.
Right. But what I'm thinking is that COVID, you're not allowed to wear a mask in a bank, and then it turned around to like you can't come in the bank unless you're wearing a mask. Yeah, and some people cowboys went in with their guns.
You don't even need a gun when you rob a bank. You can walk in with a note. I put a fake bomb on the counter and walked out, and then walked through the drive-thru and said, there's a bomb on the counter, and if you don't send me $70,000 through the freaking thing in the next 90 seconds, I'm going to click this button here on my phone. Boom, everybody goes. So tick-tock, motherfuckers. And out came shoot, the freaking thing full of money.
Wow.
But yeah. Anyways, I hope I've clarified that for you.
Yeah. One thing that this clown did say on your video, though, is that your clock, the word Detroit, is misspelled. It's Detroit.
Yeah. Well, that was a gift from a fan, so I have no control over that.
No, but I don't know if that's a misspelling or if that was kind of like a shot at the Detroit riots of '67 or something.
I think it was a misspelling. There's a very nice guy named Dino Lombardo is a fan of mine. He makes clocks like that, and
I like it the way it is. I like it the way it is.
I mean, who cares? But it just goes to, this is how petty and obsessed these weirdos are. The clock spelled wrong. I mean, and what Armand, what did he say about Armand Asante?
Do you want me to play the video?
Not really. I don't really.
I mean, I have it queued up, but I wasn't going to do that.
Feel free. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, let me. The only reason I was even considering it is because I just thought you might find this interesting. So let's just play. I mean,
I probably don't want to hear the whole thing, but
no, we won't. It's 7 minutes long anyway. I'm not going to play it all. Let's check this.
Yeah, fast forward that if you can, because it's just.
Welcome to Mob Chronicles.
Imagine going to this
Mob Dweeb is again bullshitting and lying and telling his fairy tales. This time, we caught him stepping in it on his Facebook page. And of course, we're going to have to slap him down again. Now, before we get to the video, take a close look at that corny ass hour thing clock to Gummer's right. Look how Detroit is spelled. He doesn't even notice that.
Yeah, just move to where he's talking about
Anyway,
Armand. I don't
without
care.
further delay,
let's see if we can find our Armand Asante. Oh, and then he had something about the movie with Jack Nicholson.
Okay, so listen, you can stop it right there.
Okay.
Asked him if he talked.
I just simply said that I had never seen that movie with Armand Asante. That's all I ever said. And they twisted around the saying I was comparing him to that character. I never seen that other movie with Armand. I've never even seen Gotti, to be honest with you. I saw parts of it, but that's how weird and petty they are. I mean, they make no sense.
Okay, here's the Armand Asante part. I'm just going to play for just a second here.
And second, D'Alessandro never existed. He was a fictional character who was partially based on reputed Detroit Partnership Street boss Anthony Giacalone. Armand Asante's character Carl D'Alessandro is as real as Bigfoot, a unicorn, the Loch Ness Monster, or the Tooth Fairy. Gummer has said multiple times that he worked for Jack Lucido.
When I worked occasionally for Tony Jack 30 years ago, or Jack Lucido, I stood at the door and worked security at the Hillcrest Wolverine and Gourmet House. I worked for Tony Jack Lucido.
So how is it possible that he didn't know that Jack was the owner of the Wolverine Golf Club, and thought Carl D'Alessandro was? Because he never knew.
You can stop it there. This is a perfect example.
I mean, that's all. That's enough.
It's the perfect example of the ignorance. Okay. I don't know if I can curse on here. I'm not a big cursor.
Yes, you can. This is
how in the fuck would a freaking 20-year-old kid know who owns these multi-million-dollar, like if Jack Lucido calls my grandpa and says, "Hey, listen, can your grandson work security at a casino night?" My grandpa says, "Jack wants you to work security." I said, "Okay," and I'd go there, right? I knew that he owned the Gourmet House because that's what my grandpa said. Then they say, "Hey, listen, they need you to work security out at the Wolverine Golf Course." For some reason, I thought that D'Alessandro, a guy named D'Alessandro, owned it. How would I know? I'm a 20-year-old kid. I'm not on the in. These people who own it are 60, 70-year-old, gangsters, businessmen. I'm just the guy working at the door checking names on the list, the invite list. You know what I'm saying? I think I believed it was be a D'Alessandro because a dude I worked with there told me that the girl who was the hot chick who worked there too, her dad owned the place and her name was D'Alessandro, so I assumed it was on. Now, did D'Alessandro have hidden interest in it? Did Jack Lucido own the whole thing? I don't know, because how would I? You know what I'm saying? I'm a kid.
Yeah, right. Well, and number one, look, this guy, he's not using his real name. He's using an AI generated voice.
Of course, he's a coward.
He's a coward. So we're calling the out person because you can see right here that Gunner knows what he's talking about.
I mean, it's but to think about putting that much time, energy, and effort into
he's unemployed.
Well, yeah, exactly. He's mentally ill. He's mentally ill. He lives probably with his mom. He's unemployed. He's got nothing better to do. He clearly hates that I have a nice life. I live a comfortable life, happy life. I have a nice wife, home. I do things. I have a fun life. I'm going to be in New York this weekend. I'm going to New York to be on a huge podcast, flying me out, put me in a nice 5-star hotel. I'm going to be doing dinner with Armand Asante and some other people. I mean, he's the kind of guy who sees that and it just drives him mad because he's a loser who lives with his mom and sees me having a life. And it's sad. I mean, I don't have time to pay attention to people that I like, let alone people I don't like. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If I don't like someone, I don't care. You don't exist. You don't rent space in my house. This guy will spend his entire life trying to make me look like an ass. And the only people who watch it are a few hundred like weirdo spazzes who are like him. So nobody cares.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And you're living rent free in his brain.
For real, man. I got a freaking high rise in his head. He's a mental case.
In fact, his brain is a 15-minute city.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, it's really actually sad, and I've actually said that. I don't address them. These people. I used to like address it and respond to this stuff when they comment on my. I just delete, block. I don't have time. I don't care. I know my life. Anybody who knows me from back then knows me, knows my life, knows everything. These are, like you said, weirdos who hide behind a fake name, fake voices, fake videos.
As someone who grew up in the area that you did, and every location and everything that you've mentioned, I know you're telling the truth. This guy doesn't know that.
Yeah, I know. And it's plus, I mean, they never actually prove anything. You know what I'm saying? This is nothing. How did he not know? How would I know? How would a 20-year-old kid know? Just like this is another example how stupid they are. So I said I delivered a bunch of money one time, which I did to Jack Tocco. I actually didn't know I was bringing it to Jack Tocco at the Hazel Park racetrack, right? Right. And I had referenced that Jack Tocco and the underboss co-owned it, right? And they're like, no. And he said, oh, well, how do they co-own it when it became the property of a Southfield investment company in 1983? That's how dumb they are. Yeah, the mob's not stupid. They knew if they left the Hazel Park racetrack in their name, there would be a lot of scrutiny under so they put it in the name of a shell company or a fictitious or a front man and said, but as far as I was told all my life, Jack Tocco and Tony Zarelli owned the place. But I was a kid. I don't know the details of their businesses and stuff. People say it's Jack and Tony's place. They don't ever go there. That's their place. Right. Did they sell it to some company? I don't know. I was just told it was. But I'm not a guy who freaking digs up freaking documents of deeds. And I mean, I don't care, but they do. So they're this truly spastic and really bizarre, bro.
Yeah, we've gave it enough time, but I wasn't, because you're so busy with what you're doing. I didn't even know if you knew who this clown was.
Yeah, but I'm aware, but a couple of people have told me, I listened to 5 seconds. Like, I can't watch this. This is immature and ridiculous and below me, man. I'm not going to waste time with this. I'm busy.
Good for you. And you're not, Penny said, we hope we're not going to talk about deer hunting today, but rifle
right.
Season
Don't talk about killing deers, please.
No, I'm sorry. I haven't killed a deer, and I'm probably gonna hunt tonight. I took a few days off. I had like a stomach bug for like the last 3-4 days, and I've been feeling sick, but I'm feeling better today. But that rifle season starts in 2 days, so then the real shooting gallery starts. I'm not a rifle hunter. I can't possess a rifle because I'm a felon. But
is that right? I mean, not even I can see a handgun, but they don't even let you have a rifle.
No, I can't even. I don't even think I can have a muzzle loader, man. So I just got a crossbow. But I will probably harvest a doe this year because I like deer meat. I like to make venison burger, jerky, and stew, stuff like that. So if I don't get a chance at a big mature buck, I'll probably harvest a mature doe. There's too many does. Penny, I gotta tell you, the does ratio should be somewhere around 2 to 3 to 1. So 2 to 3 does per buck. Here where I live, it's 30 to 1. And the reason for that is because nobody's killing the does. Well, what happens is a lot of them end up starving. By the end of the winter, they're half starved to death.
That's true.
And then the coyotes kill them all. So then the coyotes, when the deer are weak from starvation, the cows kill them all. And then the coyotes begin to thrive because they have a better mortality rate because they have more food. So now, instead of having 2 puppies that survive, They now have 6 puppies survive. So then you have this massive explosion of coyotes, and then that cycle goes on for 8 or 10 years.
And they go after dogs.
They go after everything, and they kill everything: turkeys, dogs, rabbits, cats. They kill everything. So then that will go on. The bell curve will go up with the coyotes will go up in population for 10 years until the deer population drop back down, and then it's. So I'd rather just like keep their general harmony and balance. And so people got to start harvesting those. They're good meat. Donate them to shelters or food kitchens or whatever. And you gotta keep them in balance. Otherwise, you're gonna be hitting them with your car every 5 minutes, which everybody does.
That's right. Yeah. Believe me, I know I know about that from personal experience.
Yeah, everybody I know has plowed a deer this year. Everybody. I mean, it's just like.
So, Alan, where can people find you? You've got a lot going on.
So you can find me in New York this weekend at New York City. I'm just kidding. I will be there, but you can find me at my website, Gunner Detroit, GUNNER Detroit.com. I also own Art Thing Apparel. I'm wearing a Brooklyn jacket here that I'm going to give to my friend Larry, who's from Brooklyn. It's artthinapparel.com. You can find my books, To Be a King, volumes 1 and 2 on Amazon. They're about a fictional mafia family set in Detroit. One of 10 novels I've written. And and my radio show is every Friday at 8 to 9 a.m. drive time on 1010 The King, Atlanta. You can find it on iHeartRadio. It's archived on Spotify. But if you're in the Atlanta area, you catch it on 1010 The King AM talk radio. And we basically have on guest authors every week to talk about, what inspired their books and their process. And we also cover other stuff, but that's typically our focus is on the creative process behind writing a book.
All right. Fantastic.
Nice.
Well, listen, Gunnar, we look forward to your next appearance, and we won't be bringing this guy up again, but I just wanted to have a discussion with you about it because just like,
well, I'm glad I could straighten that out, bro.
We appreciate you.
It's embarrassing, but it is what it is.
For him, not for you.
That's what I'm saying.
For him.
Yeah,
all right.
All right. Have a great week, you guys. Call me if you need me.
Thank you.
All right, we will. Bye-bye. Gunnar Lindbloom here on the Awake Nation. And again, seriously, I brought it up, but you could tell that this guy's just got a personal vendetta against.
There's a lot of that going around. Targeting, and we've experienced it ourselves. So
we have. All right. Finally, do you eat Oreos?
I used to.
Oh, okay. I love them. Got some bad news if you like Oreos, though. Yeah. Oreo lovers have started complaining that the cookie is now using less cream filling. Far less than before. Some gripe that the filling no longer reaches the wafer's edges. Others say the cookies don't look at all like the cookies on Oreo's packaging. The feeling now is that double stuffed Oreos, which normally had way too much cream filling, now have as much filling as the original Oreo should have. Oreos are now owned by the Mondelez company. Mondelez CEO Kirk, or maybe it's Mondelez. I don't know if they don't pronounce it. Mondelez. CEO Dirk Van de Put says they have been dealing with higher costs for ingredients such as cocoa and sugar, and they've raised their prices while also shrinking package sizes. But, says Van de Put, we would be shooting ourselves in the foot if we would just, start to play around with the quality. So, Mr. Van de Put in more filling. All right.
Yes,
that's what they want you to do. That's going to.
You remember the themes from that, right?
No.
Cause a kid'll eat the middle of an Oreo first and save the chocolate covered outside for last. How to do it? You unscrew it very fast. Cause a kid'll eat the middle of an Oreo first and save the chocolate covered outside for last. God, am I MK Ultra?
Tune in tomorrow when Penny will sing the theme from Oscar Mayer. That is going to do it for this edition of the Awake Nation. We will be back tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Eastern to do it all over again. We do remind you to visit our YouTube channel at The Awake Nation News, or directly at our news website, theawakenation.com. We'll post a 30-minute newscast there by 6 p.m. Eastern tonight. And we do that every night, Monday through Friday. In the meantime, we are out of time. So we're out of here, but we're not out of Oreos. Zublick out.
Shepard out. Goodbye for today from the Awake Nation with co-hosts David Zublick and Penny L.A. Shepard. You can catch us live on Rumble, X, and at awakenation.tv. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern. Join us for the Awake Nation News for a quick shot of espresso for 30 minutes of breaking news, 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Eastern. The Awake Nation, the truth with a shot of espresso. On behalf of the Awake Nation, with co-host David Zublick and Penny L.A. Shepard, we humbly thank our Dark Outpost and Awake Nation family. We thank you for watching the Awake Nation and ask you to join us each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. Ship doo 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 doo, yeah. Ship doo doo.